behind the scenes with future country rock blues kings and queens. Discover them first with Palm Mash TV. Palm Mash TV.
Well, hello there. It's Palm Mash TV time again. Thank you for joining us on another episode. We'll have an interview coming up for you just momentarily, but before we begin, don't forget there's that subscribe button and the bell if you haven't done that yet, and you'll always be notified of any new episodes that come your way. And if you want to leave a comment on the comment section, you're welcome to do that. And if you're on Facebook, go to facebook.com/PaulMashTV, and feel free to follow us there, comment on everything you see, even send us an inbox there. And you can email us as well. It's paulmashtv, all one word, at gmail.com. And if you're a band or a solo artist that want to be on the show, send us an email and we'll show you how to get on the show. And also, we love fan mail at that same email address. So if you're just a fan, just email me and we'll get right back to you. And all of this is going to be recapped at the closing credits at the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. From Stanford, Connecticut, we have John Krondes today. He's a very awesome artist, and I think you're going to agree, and he has quite a story to tell. And we'll start that in just a second because it starts right now. Okay, here we are with the interview, and with us from Stanford, Connecticut, we have John Krondes today. Thanks for joining us, John.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I'm glad you can make it today. Why don't we start with the obvious question? What made you decide to be an artist? I mean, everybody has their own story. We'd love to hear your story on that.
I'll quote my mother, Florence Krondes, who said, I came out of the womb and into the studio. And I'll give you the exact reason, which is actually 1,000% true. My father, Jimmy Krondes, is an award-winning songwriter. He came first. And literally, that's a correct statement. When I was born, there was a recording studio in the basement of my house. Then we moved 3 times. The last time into Darien, Connecticut, which is nearby there, in Stanford, Connecticut, still have a place here in this area. And my parents moved from New Rochelle, New York, which had a recording studio in the basement. And my father bought a new house and built a custom studio with a control room in Darien, in our house there, and had a beautiful studio. And when he passed away in 1986, we had upgraded from 8-track to 24-track, which was the big thing. That's state of the art. That was 1986, and a brand new recording console. We had a beautiful setup there. My father did a lot of records there, and that's where my training came from. Literally, my mother still would tell the story that I would stop crying as a baby, even at 3 months, 6 months old, when she would bring me down to the recording studio. And I guess that's kind of what I was born for. And she would tell everybody that literally that's the only time I would stop crying was when I'd hear the music and I'd be sitting in the studio.
Okay, well, that's quite a story there. And I'm glad you found music, and it's what makes you happy. And that's what it's all about anyway. Why don't you tell us about some of the artists that really influenced you when you were growing up, some of the legends?
Well, I love all the legends, but there are a few favorites, and I listen to everything. And, I grew up with my father making music, and my father also worked at ABC Records. He was a songwriter, noted songwriter and producer, but he also was an executive at ABC Records in the 70s and at RCA Records. And I remember as a little boy, I remember everything, being like 5 years old and my father bringing home Suspicious Minds from Elvis Presley. I had the 45. My father was working at RCA Records in New York. And ironically, now the single that we just have coming out and many others is that same band that recorded Suspicious Minds with Elvis. That's the American Sound Studio band. It's the whole thing is a twist of fate. But also, I remember my father bringing home, when I was a little boy also, Jim Croce. I love Jim Croce. And I actually, in art class in 6th grade, made a little video of Jim Croce's plane taking off and crashing into the trees and won a little prize for that. But I remember my father bringing home Jim Croce's first album, which had the hit Bad Bad Leroy Brown, one of my favorite songs. I love Jim Croce. Also, when my dad worked there, they had 3 Dog Night. There was a lot of great bands, Steely Dan, who was an ABC Records artist. I had all the first Steely Dan albums and the Eagles. My father brought all that stuff home to me. And ironically now, fast forward, some of the Elvis people died. We have all of them on nearly 100 recordings. And we got a call from the manager of Jeffrey Skunk Baxter, who was the guitar player for Steely Dan and the Doobie Brothers. And he's gearing up to play on some of these new songs. But those were some of my favorite artists growing up. Also, Frank Sinatra. My father loved Frank. Another old-time artist who's gone, of course, too, is Perry Como. And my father was the one who showed the song It's Impossible to Perry Como. And later, as this project started growing, and Joe Esposito, Elvis's best friend and road manager, became my manager and the head of this project, he knew of that song. And my mother, of course, met Joe. And Joe wanted us to record a few songs that were staple songs that were some of Elvis Presley's favorites, knowing it's like he had a sixth sense. He died in 2016, but he said, when this project gets rolling and radio stations and fans start hearing this music, they're going to want to hear some of Elvis's favorite songs. So thus, Joe had us record a lot of those new songs, plus a lot of originals, but we have a new recording of My Way. One of those songs was It's Impossible. We've got a brilliant, gorgeous new recording with the sweet inspirations and the stamps that sang with Elvis and me, of course, on lead. And a lot of Elvis's musicians. Were about to finish some of those songs that Joe Esposito started 2014, 15. He died in 16. But I love Def Leppard. I like Led Zeppelin. I love Jimi Hendrix. I loved a lot of this stuff from the 80s. Of course, I loved Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. And I have one of her bass players who just joined our project playing on some of this music, Kasim Sultan. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, there's just so many great artists. I loved a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, those are some great bands, and and I hadn't thought about Jim Croce in a while, but I used to like his stuff too, obviously, and I think you said Perry Como, all those bands or singers, that I can really see how you got your style there. Well, I'm sure you're on all streaming platforms. If you were going and saying, we would like to know where all your social media is too, so people can check you out there.
Yeah, well, we're on all of them, but one of the hot platforms right now, and my promoters had told me a year ago to get on Instagram, and that's really buzzing right now. We've got over 1 million followers, and we're told to put out some Instagram reels, which is a hot product that's a couple years old apparently. And so what we're doing is allowing fans to hear some of the new music along with songs that are finished. And of course, you can only play up to 90 seconds. But we've got some really cool, flashy Instagram reels, great artwork and pictures of some of the band members and what have you, with music where fans can hear some of the songs that we just started recording. As an example, there's things on there. If you go on my Instagram account, it's at John Krondes. It's just my name, Krondes. There's recent Instagram reels of Liberty DeVito, Billy Joel's drummer, who just joined this project, playing on some of these new songs that we started over the last few months. And then there's another later session just a couple months ago with Richie Canada, who played saxophone for Billy Joel, playing on some of these songs. So it's really very catchy, and the format is catchy in itself. And we're getting a lot of followers and a lot of plays on some of these songs. And also, of course, my Facebook account is John Krondes. I have a personal account. You can join that too, but I have an artist page called, I think it's John Krondes Official. But you just look up John Krondes. There's not too many John Krondeses. I think I'm the only one. And then I'm on Twitter at John Krondes. And on LinkedIn, I'm getting a lot of followers on there. And it's FSA John Krondes, I believe is what it is. And just look up John Krondes. It should pop up anyway.
Okay. Well, what about your streaming? Is there the streaming sites like iTunes and so forth that we can find you on?
Oh, yes. I'm on all of those. We have a few of the first singles, the stuff that's out there now. I was signed by CDX Records, Sony, and The Orchard. We work together now. And The Orchard had right away, when I had my first couple songs recorded like this and orchestrated all of this. Now they're one of the biggest, or have always been. They've teamed with Sony. And you can find a few of my first singles, like The End, that came out last year, was re-released by CDX Records, along with the Elvis movie, and still is getting a lot of play. That's on Spotify. I'm on Spotify, YouTube, all those streaming services, iTunes. The new single, A Dream for Peace, which is just coming out right now. Another couple of big distributors are starting their e-blast on Monday. That song is on both of those services, Amazon Music. It's on a lot of these platforms. I can't keep up with all of them, but it's out there.
Okay, well, go to your favorite streaming sites and get his music, and also follow him on all social media sites. I know he will love you for that. And just a moment ago, you mentioned A Dream for Peace, which is the song we're going to be showing in just a moment. Tell us a story about that song. We'd love to hear it.
Well, actually, that was, through my affiliation with Joe Esposito. And Joe loved Elvis, obviously, and was very sad when he passed away, when Elvis died in 1977. A lot of people kind of used the term the day the music died, August 16th, 1977. And when Joe Esposito discovered me, and, I have no idea how I even met these people. Everything was through introduction. But I did a first recording session with the TCB band. And literally on the way home from Nashville, I was in the car, just left the airport. My mother picked me up, and I get a phone call on my cell phone from Joe Esposito introducing himself. And he flew me to Los Angeles a couple of weeks later to hear these first tracks. And he stood up and cried, and he said, "I thought I heard Elvis." And he said, "I'm going to help you." We had a room full of media and VIPs in the music business. And, that was one of those songs, as I was saying in the beginning of the interview, where Joe Esposito said that he wanted to record a few things that were notable songs that Elvis sang, or some of Elvis's favorite songs, and that's one of them. And Joe thought that would be a very important song. And I think about this for the last year every day. It's like, how did he know this? Like Joe had a sixth sense. The song is a featured song in the new #1 movie, Elvis, and A Dream for Peace. That song is a medley, that track of two songs. And If I Can Dream, the song that Elvis sang in the '68 comeback special, which is also a featured song in the Elvis movie, and a composition called Classical Dream, which I wrote. And that's the song that opens and closes the track. It's a beautiful piece, and a very, very nice recording. And it has the American Sound Studio band recording with me that recorded Suspicious Minds, In the Ghetto, Kentucky Rain, Cry Daddy. They were the hottest studio band in the USA between 1960 and 1973. That's also the band that recorded behind Neil Diamond. They played the song Sweet Caroline, DJ Thomas's song Hooked on a Feeling. There was a whole bunch of other artists. I mean, too many to mention. They had 125 recorded hits in that period. That's the American Sound Studio band. And not knowing, soon after a lot of these guys played on some of these recordings, that many of them, a lot of the musicians started to pass on, like one after the next, which many people in the music business are saying that these masters that we have are invaluable. Radio stations now getting A Dream for Peace, they can't believe who's on the record. And they're calling, asking all the promoters and distributors, do we have more songs? Do you have more songs from John, this Memphis music? Fans want to hear more. And it's really a beautiful thing.
Okay, well, it is a great song, and I know everyone's going to agree after they watch this. So we'll get to that in a second. But John, I think that's all we need right now. But I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. We'd love to have you back again sometime if you want to plug something new for us.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on your show. And thank you to all the fans around the world. Thank you, everybody, radio stations, media, for your support. And we got a lot more music coming. And as they say, the Memphis Sound is back.
Okay. Well, let's get right to it. Here's the song, and it starts right now.
There must be lights burning brighter somewhere. Got to be birds flying higher in a sky more blue. If I can dream of a better land where all my brothers walk hand in hand, tell me why? Oh, why? Oh, why can't my dream come true? Oh, why? There must be peace and understanding understanding sometime. Strong winds of promise that will blow away the doubt and fear. If I can dream of a warmer sun where hope keeps shining on everyone, tell me why, oh why, oh why won't that sun appear? We're lost in a cloud with too much rain. We're trapped in a world that's troubled with pain. As long as a man has the strength to dream, he can redeem his soul and fly. Deep in my heart, there's a trembling question. Still I am sure that the answer's gonna come.